am going to make a birthday video. I've just turned 54, and I believe that the reason that I have about 40 famous guys, some of them in their 20s, some of them in their 30s, on my marriage list is not mainly because of my looks. Not that I look bad for 54, but I think it's mainly because I'm not sure, but I feel like it's necessary for me to make this video. I think it's because I have the ability to make my men feel like masculine heroes. You may say, is that really important to a guy if he's got any manliness in him at all? He's a macho guy. Those are the kind of guys that I'm attracted to. They like a woman who makes them feel like a hero. You say, oh, that's old-fashioned. Yeah, but let me tell you something. I don't think men have changed in that respect. I think they still want a woman who makes them feel like a hero. So here I am, I'm 54, and I've got guys in there. Famous guys in their 20s, 30s, and 40s on my marriage list. I was flabbergasted. I thought, how in the world do I get these guys on my marriage list? I would say about 10 of them on my list have been voted sexiest man alive by People magazine. I've got men like Matthew McConaughey, Hugh Jackman, Robert Pattinson, Sean Connery. They're all different ages, all different occupations. And I was beating my mind thinking, how is it that I am outdoing women like Loree McBride? I mean, they're not after her. They don't want her. I already know that. In fact, let me tell you something. Judge Terrence Jenkins told me that when she first talked to him, she propositioned him sexually, and he said, that's a real turnoff. This is what she's like. The way she approaches a man, she makes him feel like a failure as a man. She depletes his manliness. She has the gift to make a guy feel like a worm, to make him feel like he's not a man. And let me tell you something, that is the one thing you do not want to do to a guy if you want to win his heart. You do not make him feel like a failure as a man, and that's what she is really good at doing. Every man that she gets involved with, she makes them feel like they're a failure as a man. And the only thing she's good at doing with a guy is putting him into clinical depression, because let me tell you something, when a man feels like he's a failure as a man, it'll put him into depression. You know, a woman's greatest need is to be loved. A man's greatest need is to be admired for his manliness. And I don't care what you say, man, they haven't changed. That's the way the guys are. In fact, they need that more than they need sex. And this is something that Loree McBride does not seem to understand. And that's why the men all want me and they don't want her. And you may say, but she's got photos of Brent having sex with her and she claims she's this really hot sexual cookie. The man she's been making love to is not Brent Spiner. It's his clone. The Jesuits probably used their growth hormone to create an evil clone of Brent Spiner. And this clone is not manly at all. He's a wimp. He's a worm. He doesn't have any manliness about him, and he's not Brent Spiner. The real Brent Spiner has never wanted Loree McBride. And this baby that she claims she had with him was probably conceived with his clone, not the real Brent Spiner. Brent Spiner's been trying to get rid of her ever since she drug raped him in September 1992. I'm going to read a letter that I wrote to Brent, and that kind of explains why it is that the men want me and they don't want her. Let me get back into and listen to Brent's music in the background. This does not sound like a guy who would want somebody as vulgar and disgusting as Loree McBride. You know, during the trial, she flashed homosexual photos of Brent making love with animals, donkeys, elephants, I mean, with penises and everything showing. It was vulgar and disgusting, with semen spurting all over the pictures. I mean, this woman has absolutely no class. She is a vulgar, low-down, dirty dog, and no macho guy with any manliness or chivalry would ever want her. Despite her good looks, because she's like this, she's an absolute turnoff. So, she's only good at the only kind of a man she would attract would be a criminal. Somebody who's got a criminal mind and who's vulgar and disgusting and doesn't have any manliness or honor about him. Which is what's true of the Brent Spiner clone she's been making love to. The real Brent Spiner has not been making love to her. So, I'm going to read a letter that I wrote to Brent. Dear Brent, I'm so pleased that it appears since you've become a born-again Christian and have the Holy Spirit that the Jesuits have been unable to do their sex kitten programming on you. Basically, the sex kitten programming is a switch out between him and his clone where they use transporter technology to switch him out with his clone, and then Brent goes off into some alternate reality, the real Brent, while his clone commits acts that Brent Spiner would never do. And then when the Jesuits are through, having the clone do their horrid acts, then the real Brent Spiner comes back into his body. And then they impose the memories of the clone onto Brent to convince Brent that his body did it. It's a dirty, low-down trick, but the Lord showed me what the Jesuits have been doing. I figured it out after the Jesuits used their transporter technology to rescue their Loree McBride clones from our execution chamber. You may want to listen to my other YouTube video about that what's entitled Brent Spiner and Vladimir Putin Execute Loree McBride. I think it's in tape number 1 and 2. Anyways, no decent man will ever love a woman who depletes him of his manliness and makes him feel like a failure as a man. While it's true that men have a need for satisfaction of their sex drive, it's also true that men have a need for a woman who admires and appreciates their manliness, and this is where I shine and where Loree is a disaster. And that's why she doesn't have a list of men like I do who want to marry her. No man wants a woman who makes him feel like a failure as a red-blooded man, unless he's a low-down, dirty dog and an absolute failure as a man, as all Jesuit men are. Unless they're trying to get out of the Jesuit order. If they honor the vows they took as a Jesuit, they're a low-down, dirty dog, and they don't have any manliness about them. They're just disgusting and vulgar. She reduces men to sex animals and doesn't seem to understand that to most men, faith in their manliness means more to them than to satisfy their sex drive. There have been cases where a man was having awesome sex with his wife, but he ended up having an affair with another woman because the other woman made him feel like a man, whereas his wife didn't. And they say, why in the world would you say, what's your point? Well, and eventually what happened, I've heard this is true, that if a woman can make a man feel like he's a real macho guy and makes him believe in himself as a man, that woman can win the man's heart over a woman who's better looking than her and who maybe even is better with him in bed. You may say, why is that? Because to most men, especially if they're male and red-blooded, it means more to them to make them feel like a macho hero than to be a sex god in bed. Now, of course, if the woman is both, if she's a sex god in bed and makes him feel like a hero, then the man will die for her. And apparently that's how my men feel about me. But Loree McBride is only good at how should I say this? She's only good in bed. But she's a disaster. And I'm to be honest with you, I'm not even sure if she's good in bed, to be honest with you. I don't know. But she's a disaster when it comes to making the guy feel like a man. And that's why they don't want her. Judge Terrance Jenkins tells me that at the beginning of the trial, she propositioned him sexually. Yeah, this woman's something else. Yeah, of course she's going to claim that he lied, but he told me this. I said, oh my God, this woman is something else. He said, oh yeah. He said, she propositioned me. Of course he turned her down. She's probably going to lie and say he made the whole thing up, and no, I don't think so. This sounds just like her. She propositioned Franco Nero. And I even told her that in the trial. And then she said, oh, but he wanted me. That woman is such a liar. She thinks every man on earth is after her body. She thinks she's so drop-dead gorgeous that no man can resist her. Well, the only way she can get Brent Spiner, she has to get his clone, because the real Brent Spiner has never wanted her. The Jesuits had to create a clone of Brent Spiner, and they even admit in their website that they tried to get her to get his natural affections, and she failed. She fails because she makes him feel like a worm as a man. She doesn't build him up as a man at all. She makes him feel like a failure as a man. You'll never win a man's heart, woman. Any woman out there, if you make your man feel like he's a wimp. She makes all her men feel like wimps. Modern liberated women don't seem to understand that a decent man always wants to be a hero to his woman and loves a man who admires and has faith in his manliness. But this I understand, and I treasure red-blooded males. I think that may be my secret as to why so many masculine men love me. If you'll notice, just about all the guys on my marriage list are macho, and that's how I like my men. The macho guys like me. They don't want Loree McBride because she doesn't appreciate their manliness. Actually, let me tell you something. I don't think Loree McBride likes masculine men, because she likes to boss her men around and tell them what to do. She's a bossy little woman, and she likes to control her men, and macho guys don't like a woman like that. That's why she turned off that judge when she propositioned him. She was taking the lead in the relationship. The guy likes to take the lead. He doesn't want the woman taking the lead. You're usurping his manliness when you're so bossy and controlling with your men. Anyway, if you want to know what she thought about Brent Spiner and Vladimir Putin have executed her. And I haven't gotten into details about the execution, but let me tell you, they do not. Vladimir Putin did some karate chops on her, and Brent Spiner, all I can say is they have absolutely no respect for her. She has absolutely no respect for their manliness, and they have no respect for her as a woman. If you want a man to respect you as a woman, you got to respect him as a man. That's what I give to my men. So, you might win a sex partner by being a playgirl, but you're not going to win a loyal husband. Or nor will you win a man who will be manly to you and treat you with caring, and just like you hear this music. So, I'm proud of my men because they're manly. In fact, I wrote a list of what I want in a man. Number 1 is passionate. Number 2 is masculine. Say, I can't imagine you want a masculine man. You're masculine, Catherine the Great. Catherine the Great was unusual in that she loved macho guys for her lovers. And I haven't changed. I'm just like her. I like macho guys. So here I am at 54, and I'm getting guys. I don't get it. 20-somethings, 30-somethings, 40-somethings are on my marriage list. And about 10 of them have been voted sexiest man alive. I'm flabbergasted, but then I'm honored because I really don't really care for younger guys, but one thing I do like about every man on my marriage list, from what I can tell, they're all manly. And that, if they've got that, and Gerard Butler knows that's important. So they're all manly, and for that reason, I'm proud of them. Because I'm proud of my macho guys. Thank you guys for being so red-blooded and manly and heroic and courageous. They're all willing to die for me. And I'm going to stick up for you. They would never want Loree McBride. Despite her good looks, which she's way too confident over. She thinks she has way too much confidence in her good looks to get a man. You know, I'm going to tell you something. If a woman makes a man feel like a hero, and she's a sex goddess on top of that, that man will die for her. And I think that's my secret. I make my men feel like heroes. She makes her men feel like wimps.